when like a TV show, movie, or like music is good, it usually becomes a talk of the town online. Everyone talking about it, and obviously, of course, that group of people that like being different and also saying that a good thing is shit. And it's usually just the case with legitimately anything that has like any sort of like value when it comes to just like being entertaining in any capacity. And this is especially the case when it comes to like anime or manga, because I feel like the people who consume this type of stuff are also just more likely to be online, just due to the fact that like most of like anime or manga that most English speaking people consume is going to be online. But there was one show that kind of just finished up watching the second season of that I really have seen almost nothing about online, and I don't know, maybe I'm just like perfectly missed out on any of the talk of the town about this show. But I want to talk about Dorohedoro. I literally saw about this like anime. I saw about the show, I think from like a Twitter post online about not even like whether or not the show was good, just about the intro. And this actually happens a lot of the time when I watch shows. Is I see their intro, I'm like, you know what, this intro kind of bangs. So then I go out and start watching it because I don't know why. That's just what can actually get me into watching a show, is just if the intro is good or not. I was very intrigued to see if the show was good or not. I think one reason why is due to the art style. It kind of has that like 3D animation art style, and I don't know what it is, but a lot of the time when animes do this, it like looks really funky and looks really odd and looks kind of bad. And like the most premier example of this is Berserk. Now I've heard that a lot of people just call Berserk like one of the most bad the adaptations of all time, and one of it is due to the weird like 3D animation style that they did for it, and it just makes it like so much less enjoyable to watch. And I was kind of concerned too for the show because it does have that kind of like a weird 3D art style. But it actually like doesn't get in the way really at all. It does like kind of the characters move in like a more floaty, whimsical way. It kind of feels like a lot of the time. But I think just like when you look at the show in its entirety, I don't think that really matters. I kind of want to talk about just like the show overall and like whether or not I like it. So I guess spoilers ahead, just in case my explanation of this and my lead up to this type of talk has made you intrigued in it. I kind of went to the show entirely blind. I had legitimately no idea what the show was about other than just the second intro, the season 2 intro, which I don't know if you've seen it, and if you haven't, go look it up. It doesn't really give you any good insight in any capacity on what the show is about. But from the synopsis of it, or basically a bit rundown, it's just like we follow this dude Kaimon who, his head got turned into a lizard by the magicians who like experimenting on the lowly people of the underworld, or whatever, the underground, or whatever it's called, the hole. Jesus, I could barely remember what it was called. And so like that's kind of the gist of it. It's a really wonky idea. It doesn't really like sound like the most intriguing thing of all time. It's more just like this dude got his head turned into a lizard, and you kind of got to look at that and be like, is this something I really want to look at? And then the entire like first 2 seasons, I was just like, what the fuck is going on my screen? It was literally the most like random, crazy thing of all time. A bunch of stuff going out of left field, a bunch of stuff happening randomly at all times, and being just the mushroom man where he breathes mushrooms into people. He had Johnson showing up, this giant like cockroach thingy that becomes their pet or their friend or whatever. I don't really know. Magic turning like adults back in like their child form. Experimentations turning people like from non-wizard to wizard. Shin's like ability just like cutting people up and all that stuff, and like him and Noi having like a combo move where his arm gets turned to acid and then it just gets like regenerated. Absolute insanity going on at all times in the show. Absolutely crazy. And it's not like it's just like a pure randomness show, because obviously there are like some heavier moments too, like with Nikaido's like ability. This is like in season 2, where we learn that she's like, she has a time traveling ability, or like a time where she makes like a time machine or something like that. And so like we have like that also heaviness too, like where it's not just like a fully comedy show and actually has like some weight to it. And so like I feel like, I went to the show not expecting a lot, and I actually got kind of invested into it and kind of intrigued on actually where it would go, because once again, this show I had legitimately heard not a single thing about in any way. I think especially in like season 2, when it goes into like when they're fully in the magic world, I don't remember what it's called, when they're not in the hole, when they're actually in like the real world, is when like stuff starts going crazy, because you have like the cross eyes, you got like Aikawa and Rizu, you got Kaimon's head falling off, and like all this craziness where like he's having a multiple personality disorder, where he's like Kaimon at the same time, Aikawa at the same time, and I'm assuming he's also the boss of the cross eyes at the same time too. So this entire thing is just like a lot of random crazy stuff is happening, and it's not really confusing though. That's the best thing. It's because like when you have a show that has like a lot of bullshittery going on and like it's kind of just wild and wacky, you can very easily just like lose any sort of concept of a story in any capacity. But I think it did like a really good job at like making it so I actually was able to understand what was going on, and it just wasn't a bunch of just like random stuff happening at all times. Obviously, we haven't fully gotten the answer of this just from the end of season 2, where Kaimon has now turned to the boss and like he kind of threw up all that goo in his like this what is it, spine came out of his body, and then he turned to the boss who it seems like the boss like steals people's abilities, steals people's powers, but we really don't know because once again we've really only seen him on screen like once or twice, and that's when he just absolutely shit on N in its entirety, and then also to kill that one girl at the end who, said she just got her powers. That one cross-eyed person who just got her powers and was sent on a solo mission. A lot of just insanity happens here. A lot of craziness happens here, but once again, it follows a good cohesive story. Another part that I thought was really interesting too was the little twist that they had with Nikaido's ability when they're introducing what it is, where she accidentally like changed the past and made it so that one of her siblings or like her adopted sibling just died instead of being rescued by her parents because she distracted her parents when she went back in time. I thought that was like a crazy good reveal on like why Nikaido doesn't want to use her powers because like she doesn't want to change the past in any way. And so and that's like one of the big like things I say, like when the show gets serious, it kind of locks the fuck in when it goes away from just the absolute wackiness and wildness of the show. And like another thing too, obviously, probably the worst description of the plot of all time, worst like analysis of what was going on at all times, just absolutely terrible. I'm probably the worst reviewer of all time. But I also want to talk about the fact that once again, I've not seen a lot of people talk about this because I went like to the My Anime listing and see like what it was rated. Maybe it was like rated shit. And I'm just like delusional. But it actually had some pretty good ratings. Season 1 was an 8.05. Season 2 was an 8.50. And then the manga itself is like an 8.68, which is apparently the 77th ranked manga and the 46th most popular manga on the website. So I don't really know how I saw legitimately no one really talking about this in any capacity. Like you usually would think that if stuff's good, people would speak about it and like you'd see a little bit of movement, especially when season 2 of Dorohedoro just ended like a week ago. But I have not seen that much talk about it in any way. And so maybe I'm just like in the wrong points on the internet, maybe I'm in the wrong spots, but like once again, it's just kind of wild because usually like you see any sort of good show in any capacity and people are like, yes, we have to go and watch the show. You guys have to go and watch it because it's good. And like it just like starts rippling into a giant wave. But this is a show that I've legitimately not seen much about in any way. Maybe like a 10, 15 posts total in my time knowing about the show. It's kind of wild how little I've seen about it. If you're looking for a good show and you haven't seen Dorohedoro, I think you should go watch it. It is going to be very confusing really early on. There's a lot of just random crazy stuff that happens throughout the entirety of it, but it's worthwhile. It's good. It's really entertaining nonetheless, and it's also like an anime that does like the 3D art style that doesn't just completely suck in any capacity. So that's another thing that's also kind of good. Is if you want to see a show that uses 3D animation kind of good, you got this one. It's a life-changing experience to make you believe that the 3D animation in anime can actually be like somewhat decent. That's what I wanted to talk about, just kind of like giving flowers to a show that I like and that not a lot of people like. Probably the most show I've ever seen. It's probably the show that I've most been like, what the fuck in recent memory, where like just stuff happens and it's just crazy. But it's not like crazy enough to make me like be taken entirely out of the anime because like it makes sense in the situation that the anime is in. It's just kind of one of those you gotta adjust to the world that you're in instead of just like expecting it to be a lot like the animes you've seen in the past. And also one more thing too, and this is kind of interesting as well, is that a lot of people I guess who had read the manga who were concerned about the adaptation is like they were afraid that they would take out a lot of like the gore and bloodiness, and like it did not pull any punches in any capacity. Like if you look at the Dorohedoro My Anime List theme section, it is gore. It is very bloody. It is very like you can tell that the animators did a lot of research into what the inside of a human body looks like because it is like very detailed and very descriptive. And I think like, honestly, that does a lot more to build the world of it, whereas it is just this very brutal and bloody world that they live in. And I think it's kind of good that I guess they didn't pull any punches from the manga to the anime because censorship does happen a lot where like they change some stuff. Like look at Whitebeard in One Piece, like that guy's entire fucking body was blown in half and he just got turned into not a lot of like anything bad happening to him in the anime. So I think the fact that also Dorohedoro didn't pull any punches made it a lot better, where you can just like tell the brutality of the world that they live in, which is another thing that I really liked and I remembered just now as I'm talking about it right here. That's really it. That's all I want to talk about today. So thank you for watching. Goodbye.